Wargamers, today we're going to do another Tau army list review. Now, if you haven't seen one of these videos from me before, basically, I take army lists that are sent to me by my patrons over on Patreon. I review those lists, talk about their strengths and weaknesses, and then I do a revision of that list, trying to maintain the original overall feel and strategy of the list, but tweaking it in order to make it a little bit more effective. So this is something I do special for my patrons. If you want to have me do a video like this for you, just join our community over on Patreon, and it's not a problem. So, all right, let's jump into this one. This is meant to be a 2,000 point competitive list. It is made up of 3 detachments, and the overall strategy is basically using your staple units, your Fire Warriors, Riptides, Broadsides, to be your fire base, and then running interference with a bunch of Piranhas. So that's the overall list. Let's get into it and start with the first detachment here. It is a Tao Detachment, and for HQ we have a Fireblade. So this is something that every list we talk about, we say Fireblades are a fantastic HQ choice, and that's true. They are a force multiplier not only for your Fire Warriors but for your entire army because they are a 2-up marker light. So a fantastic choice, but we run into an issue here where this battalion detachment only has 1 Fireblade, and so it's actually an invalid list as it is currently, so that's something that we need to address in the revision right away, is making sure we have 2 HQs in that battalion detachment. For troops, we have 4 units of strike teams. Each of them are 5-man units. This is a pretty standard unit, fantastic choice. These guys are going to benefit from your Cadre Fireblades, certainly, and are going to be able to take care of a lot of different things ranging from volume of fire, but also to grabbing objectives. So strike teams are a fantastic choice. They're going to be the backbone of any Tau list, really. And because this is Tau Sept, strike teams are going to be particularly effective because they have the ability to utilize the focus fire stratagem, which improves their wounding by 1 on a wounded target if you expend that stratagem. So they are going to be wounding knights on 4s, really. So it's going to be a huge asset to have a bunch of Fire Warriors in any Tau list. For fast attack, we have 2 units of 2 Piranhas. Again, Piranhas are something that we're seeing more of in certainly online, but I think in the meta too, they're becoming a little bit more prominent because their ability to really mess with opponents' movement. You can charge them up there. They can dish out a fair amount of volume of fire. But the thing that really makes them impactful is their footprint and the fact that they have 2 gun drones that actually disembark from the vehicle when it's destroyed. So if you keep those gun drones on there, the vehicle's destroyed, the opponent's problem is not really over yet because now they have to deal with the gun drones that disembark, and that takes up a whole nother unit of shooting. It can also lead to issues with combat and movement. So Piranhas are not there to really be the fire base of the army, but they are there to just really mess with whatever they're trying to do. And so we have 4 Piranhas here. They are kitted out exactly how I would recommend bringing them. So you have the burst cannon as opposed to the fusion blaster, because again, we don't really want to make these guys super expensive as they would be with the burst or with the fusion blaster. But more importantly, the burst cannon has the volume of fire and the fusion blaster doesn't. So burst cannon is definitely the way to go here. They also have 2 seeker missiles. Seeker missiles are a fantastic deal in a lot of different matchups. They're 5 points each, and they can do some really significant damage. So turn 1, turn 2, if you have them left, shoot off those seeker missiles using your marker lights, and you're going to be able to do some pretty heavy damage to some larger targets. So seeker missiles are a great asset to this army, and Piranhas can take 2 each, meaning that you can jam a lot of seeker missiles into a Piranha heavy army. For heavy support here, we have a unit of broadsides, we have 3 one-man units of broadsides. So this is 3 units of a broadside Chasvray, which is the sergeant character basically. And these guys are kitted out to have 2 high-yield missile pods, 2 smart missile systems, advanced targeting system, and seeker missiles each. So basically here, if we're going for a seeker missile heavy list, of course, it makes sense to bring them on the broadside. Not necessarily something that I prioritize, but the broadsides, as opposed to the Piranhas, are a much sturdier platform. And if you're going to be bringing broadsides anyway, which you probably are, it doesn't hurt to bring the seeker missiles as well. The biggest issue here is that these broadsides are 3 separate units as opposed to 1 single unit. Now, if we were going for something like a brigade detachment, that would be important because it'll unlock additional command points. But since we're not going for a brigade detachment, and instead we're using 2 battalions, we really want these guys to be in 1 unit. And the main reason for that is that they are going to be able to benefit from stratagems and special abilities much more easily than anything that is split into 3 units. So primarily we're talking about these guys benefiting from command and control node from a commander, of which there is one later on in the list. And really, in order to have them benefit from command and control node to the maximum effect, they need to be a single unit. So so those guys should be a single unit here. The benefits of being split into 3 are not sufficient to justify the cost of not being able to reroll your wounds because of command and control node. It's just that good. All right, second detachment here, we have another Tao battalion, and we have the same issue as before. There's only 1 HQ choice here. This time it's Commander Shadow Sun, which is going to be our commander in the list. A fantastic asset because she can call Cao Yun twice and can always command and control node. So she's going to be hanging out with those broadsides and be doing a lot of work for you. Just a really good choice in any Tao list today. For troops here, we have 3 5-man fire warrior squads, just like before. Having that Cadre Fireblade is really going to help those guys do some work as well. For elites, we have 2 Riptide battlesuits. Each of them are kitted out with advanced targeting system and velocity tracker, as well as heavy burst cannon and 2 smart missile systems. So really, having the heavy burst cannon smart missile systems, that's the default choice. That's the most valuable choice most of the time, and so that's a fantastic choice. Advanced targeting system as well, a fantastic choice because it's going to make those smart missile systems -1 AP as well as ignoring cover, and also going to make those burst cannon shots a little bit more effective. So really doing a lot of work there with advanced targeting system. Velocity tracker is something that is really a meta-based selection. If you're running into a lot of fly units, you can get a lot of mileage out of velocity tracker, especially if these guys are going to be sitting around for 2 turns due to Cao Yun. Having the velocity tracker can be really effective, right? So if they're going to be in Shadow Sun's Cao Yun bubble, they're not going to be moving for 2 turns anyway. So why would you take a different support system, primarily the target lock? So having the velocity tracker allows them to add 1 to their ballistic skill against targets that are flying. And so having that ability is going to be more beneficial than the target lock in cases where you're in the Cao Yun bubble. However, if you're planning on having these guys be more aggressive, moving around the tabletop, putting pressure on objectives, then the target lock is the better choice. So velocity tracker here is good. Because we're going to be having them in the Shadow Sun bubble, hopefully by turn 3 or turn 4, depending on how you call those Cao Yuns. There's nothing really to contest the Riptides, and so it doesn't matter if they're going to be moving and shooting. But if you're planning on them just standing still, the velocity tracker is the way to go. For fast attack, we have another 2 units of 2 Piranhas each. Again, same thing as before. We're having them run interference and mess with the opponent and provide seeker missiles. So we have a total of 8 Piranhas here, which is quite a lot. They'll be able to zip up the board really quickly. Our final detachment is a Sakia Sept detachment, and it's the kind of the classic 4 dudes from Sakia. So we have an Ethereal with Honor Blade on a hover drone. Hover drone is pretty optional here, not really anything too important one way or the other. But the important part is that you have the Ethereal because he has the boosted leadership and also helps you out with some drones. And then for elites, we have 3 Firesight Marksmen. These guys are going to be providing marker light support in addition to the Cadre Fireblade, and are just a really good choice in terms of reliable marker light support. Firesight Marksmen and Cadre Fireblades are the way to go, certainly, because all of them are characters. So they're a good way to have reliable and resistant marker lights in your army. So I really like this detachment. It's a good choice and something you see a lot of because of that. Overall, I think this list conceptually does a lot, right? It has all the parts that we want to see on the tabletop. The two things that are really standing out to me as potential bumps in the road, speed bumps, are one, the lack of HQ units, right? So right now we need to address that in order to have the list actually be valid. Including other Cadre Fireblades primarily is going to be the way that we do that. And then the second thing is the drone support for your battle suits. So both your broadsides and your riptides right now don't have dedicated drone support. And you might say, well, there's a lot of drones on the Piranhas, and that's true. That's true. There are drones on the Piranhas, but really, if we want the Piranhas to be the most effective at what they're doing, we want those drones to go with them. We don't want those drones to be unloading their we don't want those Piranhas to be unloading their gun drones in our fire line where the Riptide and Broadsides are on turn 1. Instead, we want those gun drones moving up the board and messing with the opponent alongside the Piranhas. So we don't really have any drones that are going to be hanging out with our Riptide or our Broadsides, and that means that they are just going to get eaten up on turn 1 and turn 2. So we really do need to provide some sort of support for them. But other than that, I like the idea of the list. I think it has the pokey parts that we want. It just doesn't have the defensive parts that we necessarily need. So in the revision, we will address that, and so let's take a look. Okay, so we are back in Battlescribe here looking at this 2,000 point Piranha battlesuit list that's meant to be a little bit more competitive. And this is revision, right? So I said the two main things are drone support and HQ units. So let's take a look at what I came up with for a revision based on that. All right, so again, we're maintaining the same detachment structure. So it's a Tau battalion detachment. We have Cadre Fireblade as our HQ unit, as our warlord. So he has 3 Unity Devastation. I think it's important to make that explicit in your army list. So we have him providing support to your entire army, but really we're looking at things with volume of fire, which really is the entire army actually. So 3 Unity of Devastation is a fantastic warlord choice. It's going to work well with your Fire Warriors and with your Riptide and Broadside. So really good option here. And then for our second HQ choice, we have another Cadre Fireblade because we need a second HQ choice. And Cadre Fireblades are the way to go for that. For troops, we're down to 3 5-man units. This is an unfortunate cost of having to add those additional HQ units, is that we didn't have quite as many points available for infantry, but nonetheless, there's still quite a lot of Fire Warriors in this list, and we have a ton of Strength 5 shooting in the form of Fire Warriors and Piranhas and Smart Missile Systems, so I'm really not worried about it. We have tons of volume of fire because of that. So we have 3 5-man units of Fire Warriors. For fast attack, we have, again, we have 2 units of Piranhas. One of them is a 2-man unit, just like before. The other is a 3-man unit. These guys are going to be our Piranhas for the list now, so we're down to 5 instead of 8. Again, this is a consequence of the HQ units and the need to provide drone support for our heavy hitters. So we have a 2-man unit and then a 3-man unit of Piranhas here. Ideally, the 2-man unit is more preferable, or is preferable because of kind of the flexibility that gives you, but we can't have we didn't want to have like just a 1-man unit of Piranhas hanging out. So 2 it is. For heavy support, we have a unit of XV-88 broadsides, right? So I talked about how we didn't want to have 3 1-man units. We want to have 1 3-man units, and that's because this better utilizes the command and control node as well as the other types of abilities that Shaosun is going to provide. So really having them in that one in that one unit is going to make them a lot more effective. And so that's what we did here. They all have advanced targeting system, making them extra pokey. For the second detachment, again, it's Tao Sept, again with an additional HQ choice, again, another Counter Fireblade. So that's 2 additional 2-up marker lights in this list, as well as additional bubbles of volley fire from the Counter Fireblades for your Fire Warriors. So a lot of flexibility there because of that. That allows you to move your Fire Warriors a little bit more spread out. They don't all have to be kind of tethered to this one Fireblade if you want to utilize his abilities to the fullest. So having multiple Fireblades is advantageous for multiple reasons because of that. For troops, again, we have three Fire Warrior squads, just like before. For elites, we have the same 2 Riptides, again, advanced targeting system and velocity tracker, because again, if they're hanging out in the Kaoyun bubble, the target lock doesn't do anything for them. So velocity tracker makes them a little extra pokey on those first 2 turns if you're playing against an opponent which has the fly keyword. And fly keyword is pretty popular, so it's not a bad assumption to make that going into a tournament setting, you're going to run into a fly heavy list. All right, in fast attack, we have 2 4-man units of shield drones. Right, so those are shield drones to provide support for our Riptides particularly, but they could also help out with the broadsides. Oh, I should mention, I think we missed that part. Let's go back up here. Yep, so the broadsides, they have 5 shield drones as well. Right, so that's a total of 1 unit of 5 and 2 units of 4, so 13 drones. In this list that weren't in this list before. That's 130 points of shield drones that are going to make a huge difference in making sure that your broadsides and your Riptides stay on the table. So, 13 shield drones is a good number for this size list. And then the last attachment, again, is that Sakia Sept. We have an Ethereal on Hover Drone and then 3 Firesight Marksmen, exactly like before. So overall, I think this is a list that is valid, but also is a little bit more defensive and can still provide the same offensive output, actually more offensive output, because you've consolidated some of your units in a way that allows you to better leverage your stratagems than the previous list. So same feel, a little bit sharper, a little bit more effective. Really, what we could do here, if we wanted more Piranhas or more Fire Warriors, we could probably even lose this last attachment here because we do have 3 Counter Fireblades. 3 2-up marker lights is going to do a lot of work for you. And if you wanted more marker lights, you could work them into your Fire Warrior units. You could take just a normal Tao Sept Firesight Marksman. It doesn't need to be in a detachment that's Sakia specifically. So you have some flexibility here. If you want to lose this last attachment, that frees up 125 points. You can play around with it and add back some of the units that we took away. But I think overall this list is going to do really well. It has the offensive capability in the Riptides and the broadsides, and then it has the durability built in there as well. So overall, I think this is a strong list. I think it'd be really fun to play too because of the dynamics imposed by having the Piranhas in the list. And so let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Again, if you're interested in this sort of thing, hop on over to Patreon and join our community there. As always, thanks for watching and happy wargaming. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. This channel is made possible by my supporters over on Patreon. If you enjoyed this video, consider joining our community over there and the associated Discord channel. Special thanks to Aaron Fox, Shifty, Jim Bob, Scott Heater, Nick Steele, Jared Egler, Tao Oswell, Zach Brooks, Stephen Cohen, Jake Johnson, Eric Jackson, Zealous Brimstone, Evan Wells, Benjamin, Julian Peck, Giovanni DiMaggio, and Chris Kessler.